Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. It's the Summer Series, episode 2. We have a very special guest tonight. No, it's not the Queen of England, although we all know she's a gooner. Just ask Cesc Fabregas. Maybe you could ask Super Kevin Campbell because he's back tonight.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to the Highbury Squad. For those of you listening on replay, and many of you will because there are Nation League games going on. I don't even know what it's called, but if you're into that, then go right ahead. For those listening on iTunes and Spotify and Acast, welcome to the show. Had to put up this picture of the Queen. Anyone who stays in a job for 70 years has my respect. And back on the show first, my podcast brother from another mother. Boy, have I missed you. Super Kevin Campbell.
Squaddies, good to be back. It won't be for long, but it's good to be back at ease and let's go.
Listen, we don't mind Nottingham Forest borrowing you, okay, for a little bit. They can, and now they're back in the Premier League. I'm just saying we need a timeshare type of deal with what's going on here. But congratulations to your old club, Nottingham Forest, who haven't been in the top flight since they broke up the Pierre Van Hooijdonk, Kevin Campbell relationship, Mr. Super Kev.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Well, let's welcome our...
But much deserved.
Much deserved, totally. Let's welcome our special guest. We are breaking his Highbury Squad cherry, everybody. I have been trying to get this fella on the show for a while. Finally, the stars have aligned. He's the writer of Le Grove and, of course, the host of the Arsenal Opinion podcast. Mr. Pedro, welcome to the Highbury Squad.
Thank you. I love how much success your show's been having this year, and it's great to be on with the both of you. So
it's all Sophie, mate. I tell you, it's all Sophie.
No, I can't do it without my wingman. By the way, if you haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, I just have to say you got to go see that. All right, Lone Star is sweltering in Texas. It's 100. I told him maybe our conversation will keep him cool. Stapes, good evening. Lynn, good evening. Our Chief Like Officer, Tammy, back in the house. A-Run is here. Hertzy in the house. Have you had another kid since the last time we spoke? Not sure. Good evening to Tebow, CM, SS. Everyone is here, and we're here to talk a little bit about football. And then at the end, we'll have a quick fire pop culture round with Pedro because during the summer series, we're getting to know our Arsenal community a little bit better. And by the way, if you haven't caught our Talented Gooners episodes, we started those earlier this season. Some really talented people in the Arsenal community doing great things. Hello, Arsenio, Craig, every single one of you. Thank you so much. Rich, are you back from Thailand? Hope you had a good time. I think you've been back for a while now. Anyway, Super Kev started already. The whole transfer thing.
Of course.
I was on Tom's show yesterday with Arsblog and Harry, and we were talking about, are you starting to panic yet? You know, Arsenal fans starting to panic yet? So I'm going to, before I get Pedro's take on a little bit of, you know, success versus failure last season, are you even engaged into the transfer bit yet? I so love Tom doing a show every morning where, you know, obviously the Football London stuff, they've got their ear on the ground to a lot of these things, but I'm not panicking yet. Are you?
Why would I panic? Why would I panic? No, listen, at Arsenal, at least they're trying to do some business, and it's not even July yet, right? It's just turned to June. I know things might go a little bit quicker, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the signings. I'm not panicking at all. No, far from it. I think they know what they need to do, Soph. And I'm sitting back, relaxing. I might even get the hat.
Get a cigar out.
Get a la-di-da and sit back, because you know what? It's going to tell me a lot. Our recruitment this summer.
Yeah, this is the big one. Pedro, where do you stand on all this? Being a writer and a podcaster, of course, the troops expect content and they love their transfer content. There is no doubt about that. What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's a bit early to get panicked. I think we're going for quality this summer, and I think that Arsenal are playing in a type of market where there's going to be competition for signatures. So I would like us to get our business done early, like Dortmund. I think they've signed 7 players already, but I don't think it's going to go that way. But the reason that I'm confident this summer is maybe last year there was a lot of debate about what we needed. The direction wasn't really clear. We didn't know what sort of profile of player we're going to sign, but I think we had a really good summer last year. The direction has much more clarity. Like, we know we need a striker. We know we need, we know what all the problems are. And I think Arteta and Edu see the same problems that we do. So it's just a question of how much quality we can add, because we don't have an infinite amount of money like other clubs. And, there are some really consequential signings that we've got to make. I mean, I think the striker signing is probably 60 million to spend. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that will be the most consequential signing that we'll make for the next 5 years. It really makes or breaks the ambitions of the club. So I really hope Arsenal get it right. And I hope that they don't make us wait until the last day of the season, last day of the transfer window, like it felt like they did last year. So I'm excited. No need to get panicked right now.
So let's talk about this a little bit in a nutshell, because I don't really want to labor too much on last season. Kev and I definitely kind of shifting gears and looking ahead versus using that rear view mirror, which, by the way, I only do for my lipstick. The listeners know that. Pedro, success or failure for you last season if you can just encapsulate it for us.
I think if you looked at the last 3 months of the season, it felt like a failure, but context is king. When it comes to football, I think we tend to we judge things in moments rather than looking at the bigger picture. The plan at the start of the season was to age down the squad, bring in a different profile of character into the squad, because the only way Arsenal can get back to the top is if they grow their talent. So they purposely went out and bought players that had 2 to 3 seasons worth of experience at a very young age. And the hope is that if you've got that sort of talent at a young age, then you can blossom into a world-class player. And the plan was Europe this season. That was the target. The fact that we were within spitting distance of top 4 was an overachievement, because no one thought that was going to happen 3 games into the season. So could we have done better in the final stretch? Yes, but I don't think it's a catastrophe. And I think if we're all really honest, the idea of this young squad playing 3 games a week from September probably wasn't a good one. So I think that we can make Europa League work for us next season. I think we've got a really ambitious manager that believes that we can win. We can be competing for the league in 2 seasons' time. And I think it's I think the players that kind of bottled it a little bit towards the end of the season, they'll have more experience going into next season. They'll know what it's like to be in a competition. And just looking at some of the statistics, it's like 2 of the top 5 chance creators in the Premier League are in Arsenal's side, and they're both under the age of 25. The next oldest after that is Bruno Fernandes, and he's 27 years old. I mean, the sky is the limit for some of these players. So put a proper striker in the system, get some cover for Thomas Partey, sort out the fullback coverage, and you've got a top 4 team. You found 10 extra points there. And the average age of the squad, when we take out the older players, when we lose Lacazette, if we lose Xhaka, actually goes down this summer. So sky's the limit. I know, Kev, you played in some young teams. I'd love to. I'm not this. Forget it's not my podcast here, but I think something
get
the
stuck
fans
in.
don't
That's why
understand
Kev's here. Is the joy of asking him these questions. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, age is a mitigating factor, and people don't understand that there is a big difference between a 22-year-old player and a 29-year-old player. Average age of that Liverpool squad was 29. Average age of that Madrid squad was probably even a little bit older. There's a reason older players are better, and I feel like not enough is said about having the youngest squad in the Premier League collecting 69 points, which was enough for the 2 previous seasons. So I'm super positive about the direction that we're going, and I just hope that we can make it count with the recruitment this summer.
Pedro, I think what you say is right, but unfortunately, as you well know, fans look at moments. They look at the moment, and the moment was there for us, obviously, because of that lot down the road as well. That's why it meant more to be able to get that top 4. We are inexperienced. We don't have the experience of some of the other teams because of our youth. But you're right. The bigger picture says now there's more seasoning coming into this side, because sometimes you've got to go through the trials and tribulations to understand what it takes to get there. And it's difficult for us as fans to feel it and to accept it. But as players, sometimes that's the way it goes. And every season, because it maybe happened, 10 years ago, doesn't reflect on how it is now. So I agree with what you say. Look, the signings this summer are going to be key. I think Jesus is a sought-after striker. Some agree, some don't. It's okay. But for me, I like him. He likes to press. He can score goals. And I think in our side, I think he will score goals. So, again, I think we need 2 strikers, by the way. And whether Eddie signs or not, I still think we need a big one.
Okay, so let's get stuck into this a little bit, because in total kind of chaos media mode, and I love this. And by the way, 160 of you listening live, Chief Like Officer Tammy's in the house, Super Kev is back tonight, and we've got LeGrove. I'm just saying it's the summer and we're spoiling you already. So Super Kev, tell them what you want.
Well, again, so look, if there's 160 in, I want more than half. I want 90.
Exactly.
I want 90 likes. Because you know what? I'm giving up my evening here to come on with you guys. Vinny's showing you what to do. LeGrove's giving up his time.
Sitting on Pedro's head right now.
But Pedro's giving up his time. Sophie's giving up her time for you to bring you a summer series show. Come on, give us something back.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right, Lone Star. Jesus will save us. He will save us all.
After he hits a like.
After he hits the like button. Okay, so I wanted to throw some of these up for you, because what I love about what the media do is they start looking at what our 11 can look like next season. And I'm gonna put it all up here, and then we can just talk about it bit by bit. Because according to reports, this young fella, we don't know until we see them holding up the shirt and signing the contract with Edu and Mikel, either side. I love how Premier League News Now is doing a lot of this stuff. By the way, I look old enough to be his mother. I'm probably old enough to be Jesus's mother. Of course, then you've got the media making the perfect scenario story for the summer: Arsenal versus Tottenham. Who would sign for Arsenal when they can sign for Conte and play in the Champions League? There's this guy too that has become a talking point. And for me, the signing of the summer would be having someone like this fella in our side, maybe out of our price range. Might just be a little bit of a pipe dream, but I would certainly rather have him than another young player like Hickey. But if you look at what Sports DS have done, they've got Jesus up front, Smith Rowe on one side, Saka, Tielemans, Odegaard, Partey, and then the back speaks for itself. Although instead of Tomiyasu, they have Livramentos, however you pronounce his name. TalkSport did their little team too. They have Jesus on the left. They've got Abrahams up front, and they have Marty and Saka, and then Tielemans and Xhaka at the back with the regular back five. And then, of course, TalkSport did another one with Jesus up front, Sterling on the left, Smith Rowe in the middle, Saka, Xhaka and Tielemans. The thing that struck me the most about this, and I'd like to start off with the midfield, is that most of these folks are talking about this guy partnering Xhaka versus talking about Thomas Partey. Pedro, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, his goal at Manchester United, he gets a lot of stick. He's made some fundamental mistakes at the biggest times for us. We've not qualified for the Champions League since he has been in the squad. I think we'd argue that had Partey been playing for the last few games this season, would we have made the Champions League? I would argue if he and Tierney were playing and Tomiyasu were a completely different team. Talk to me about the midfield first and some of the stuff I've lobbed at you guys here.
I think Thomas Partey is the king in our midfield. Like Mikel Arteta has said in numerous press conferences, the win statistics when Thomas Partey is in midfield are much, much higher than when he's not in midfield. So everything will be built around him. I think Granit Xhaka is a very good player. I think he's always going to make certain errors in a season. I don't think referees like him or treat him particularly fairly, but he comes in and he does a job. But at some point, you're going to have to move beyond him. He's 29. He's 29 years old. We know his limitations. He's not taking us to the next level. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave. I mean, there was talk that he was going to go to Roma last summer, but the partnership in midfield will be Thomas Partey plus. I think Yuri Tielemans is the player that everybody's talking about at the training ground. I think that he's got 1 year left on his deal, 25 million for a player that's not had the best season, but is undoubtedly talented. Would represent a good deal. He's great with both feet. He's got excellent delivery from anywhere in the park. He's got little bursts of speed, and he's still young. I think that a lot of people are criticising his pace, but a lot of people criticise the pace of Thiago at Liverpool. I don't think his game is about pace. I think it's about quick movement, great end product, and he scores goals. He's got like a Mark Overmars-esque fizzing low shot that I love, and having goals from midfield is something that Granit Xhaka certainly doesn't have. So I expect us to upgrade the midfield. And the interesting thing is that we don't have a lot of experience in the side. So the idea is we don't have to sell Xhaka. We can have Xhaka as a player to rotate. The problem with us last season was Arteta is, his job was on the line last season. So he played the same team over and over again. If he rotated Tomiyasu, if he rotated Thomas Partey, maybe we would have got fourth. Sometimes a win turns into a draw and a draw turns into a loss, but you've got your players fitter for longer. Tielemans allows us to rotate with more confidence. So I think he'd be a fantastic addition to the squad. And I think the criticism feels very much like it was, Martin Ødegaard is a boring player. Well, now he's one of the biggest chance creators in open play in the Premier League. So I trust the club when it comes to making decisions about creative talent.
Super Kev, you've been really vocal about that midfield for years. You were actually on a show. I can't remember which show it was. I was listening a couple of weeks ago where the Ruben Neves Tielemans question was thrown at you. I want to focus on the midfield right now. We'll get to the striker and some of the other positions. What's your take on a lot of people talking about Xhaka being the guy, not Thomas Partey? Is that because of injuries? I know how you feel about Thomas Partey. Our listeners do as well.
I just think people make that decision, Soph. Sorry to cut across you there.
No,
people make that decision because of the way the season finished sometimes, where Partey wasn't there. So Xhaka's everybody knows that our best player, best midfielder for sure is Thomas Partey. He's the one who makes everything tick and click. When he's playing well, against anybody, he stands out. He stood out so much this season. Obviously, but the difficulty has been health, availability. Now, in order to get the availability right, we might have to have more of a squad where sometimes he doesn't play every game, as Pedro said, and we can rotate. So the Neves of this world and Tielemans of this world can rotate in that midfield. That's where maybe Xhaka can come in and play that anchor role. Or whatever. It might be Sambi, it might be somebody else. But, if we brought 3 central midfielders in, it might be El Neni playing that role. You know, if we brought 3 more midfielders in, I think we'll be in a lot stronger position. Obviously, Tielemans, I think it will be a good signing. Neves is a good signing, and I still like Basuma. I do. I still like Basuma. I really do.
Do you think it's his off the field stuff that's turned Arteta off a little bit? We've seen him with regards to characters
maybe.
just as important to him, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. And listen, lads make mistakes or whatever. I don't know the full. No, I haven't got the full knowledge of what's going on off the pitch. But what I can tell you is on the pitch, he is box to box, could put his foot in, and he will make us a better side. That's what I do know. And I don't think it'll be crazy money, Sophie, either. You know, I don't think it'll be crazy. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract after this one. So this is the time to buy.
But we know he folded up his shirt last time, didn't he? I mean, he was actually sending a come and get me message in the last transfer window.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a long way to go, you guys. It hasn't even opened yet. Let's get to a couple of other key positions, because I would say both cost us. You know, we keep talking about needing depth. Pedro, Kevin, and I talk about this a lot during the season in terms of we're very supportive of our summer signings. We got behind all of them. And when we had our first 11 fit, we were a really good team. You know, the Manchester City game, probably the pinnacle of our season in terms of how we played, how we moved.
Performance. Yeah.
Everything about that match was indicative of what you want to see consistently and competitively throughout an entire season. But once you go past those 11, it gets a bit tricky. And this is the part where Edu and Arteta have to convince players with Europa League football, at least we can dangle that carrot, to come to the club. I'm not sure if this guy is in the mix. The stories about him seem a bit looser than the Gabriel Jesus stories, but I do want to focus on the left back and right back positions right now. For me, this guy has shown not only that he's a huge talent, he's worked under the most intense manager in modern times. He's won at every single level. He's a competitor. We saw what he and his teammates rose to the occasion for a country, a nation, and a world that is looking for solidarity and peace right now. They represented everything good that we want back in this universe. Also, this young fella who's been doing bits in Serie A didn't have a great game the other night, but certainly someone who's on the radar. For me, I would rather as Zinchenko than another young prospect, even though he's maybe less of a prospect. And of course, the loss of Tomiyasu was huge for us. Talk about a player who a lot of people said, who's he? What does he do? Came in and had an amazing immediate impact. I would say became a bit of a cult hero this season, and certainly made Ben White and Gabriel look really good at the back when he played. How do you see that right now as it stands with regards to needing more experience and that higher echelon player versus what is realistic, but understanding that if Tierney's going to be injury prone and Tomiyasu hopefully won't be, it's just his first season in the Premier League, which is much tougher than Serie A. Talk me through that. What is your vision as a fan and also someone who writes about the club on a daily basis? Bless you, by the way, having gone through the season as a fellow podcast host.
So I think there's a few interesting things that are at play with the fullback situation. Firstly, it was known that Tomiyasu had calf issues, and Arteta needs to learn to trust the squad. Cedric came into the squad via emergency, and he acquitted himself pretty well. If Cedric had been played during the Christmas period, Tomiyasu probably wouldn't have picked up an injury, and then he wouldn't have re-injured himself and put himself out for even longer. And after you injure yourself for the second time, it becomes a psychological issue, and then you get them players doubting themselves and performances slightly dipping. Then you've got Kieran Tierney, and this just felt like Arsenal not mastering the dark arts. Liverpool had Trent, who was obviously tired because he played a lot of games. And just before the international break, they announced that he's out for 2 weeks because he's got a hamstring injury. He's rested one game after that, and then he plays the rest of the season fit. And they come close in all of the competitions that they play, and they win 2 cups. It's Kieran Tierney then goes out to Scotland. We know that he's injury prone. He's not been rested. He plays all the games, and he gets injured in 2 meaningless after 2 meaningless friendlies. So Arsenal have got to manage their squad better. They've got to play the rules game a little bit better, or they also have to work out what the backup options are, because Cedric is not really at the standard, and Tavares, bless him, I don't think he's at the level yet, and he looks like he needs a loan. So the second part of this is there is a finite amount of cash at Arsenal, so you don't want to be buying 2 fullbacks again. Like, we need to be investing in attack. We were basically bottom of the top 7 for goals scored most of the season. We need to invest in strikers and forward players that can add goals to the system. So I think that there are some opportunities for Arteta. Like Ainsley Maitland-Niles has gone to Roma and he's had a disaster again. He's not a midfielder. He is the second best right back at Arsenal, and he's done it at the highest level. He's had marries in his pocket. He's had Adama Traore in his pocket. Like, I think that he is an internal solution that could be an upgrade at right back. And, he's got to ask himself, do you want to go to the Championship and play centre midfield, or do you want to be part of something special at Arsenal with your mates? And then at left back, I think if Arsenal got an offer that was good enough for Kieran Tierney, they would absolutely take it. And then you can look at Zinchenko, an upgrade there.
Would you, if Newcastle was serious about the 50 million that has been reported, or even if it's 30, would you let Tierney go? Same question to Kev as well.
100%. He's been here for 3 seasons, plays 60% of the Premier League games. That's a pattern. You have to have your best players on the pitch, and 50 million for a player that's injury prone is exceptional money, especially if you can upgrade with Zinchenko.
Injuries could happen to anybody. He gets the club, he feels the club. And I think, Pedro, what you said about the squad, being able to have players who you can rotate makes a massive difference. Our problem is we didn't have it. We don't have it. And obviously, the Nuno Tavares, who had a good introduction to the first team early on in the season, he kind of went a bit AWOL. The back end of the season, didn't he? He got substituted early and stuff, and then he got thrust in, and he scored 1 goal against Manchester United, then he handballed 1, and it's like a roller coaster with him. So I wouldn't do it. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I'd keep Kieran, and I like the Zinchenko one because he can play multiple positions. I watched him the other day play for Ukraine against Scotland. My God. He was outstanding. He was outstanding, and I think somebody like that who can play midfield or fullback equally as well, I think would be a really good touch for us.
Yeah, I feel like many of us, injury. You have to be prepared for injuries, and people keep wanting to say, "Got to catch Liverpool, got to catch City." There's 3, maybe 2 or 3 steps in between that. And to be honest with you, if Liverpool end up losing Mane, and Salah doesn't seem to be particularly happy right now, Henderson is on the wane. You've got a team, football's cyclical, things happen. I think City will continually, it's like plug in, plug out, plug in, plug out. I think it's a little bit different for Liverpool. Chelsea, a lot of people are saying, will they falter this year? I think you have a great manager in Tuchel. You've still got some fantastic assets. You've got a new owner now who is going to invest. He's not going to invest like Abramovich. So I feel like our step, this is the season really where Mikel Arteta does need to take the club to another level, which is why signing a Zinchenko for me is a massive move. Signing a Gabriel Jesus and not missing out to a Tottenham who can offer Champions League football is a massive move. To me, Tielemans and Neves, are they similar? Are they of ilk?
No.
They're not. And so as we move kind of a bit further forward in the side as well, there's been a lot of talk from the newspapers with regards to Juventus having an interest in Martinelli and Gabriel, and us having a massive interest in bringing Gnabry home, perhaps. I always say never go back to your ex, because it just won't ever be the same again. Let's start off with Gnabry as we move from the midfield to the back and then forward again. Pedro, are you all in on this, or do you think there are better solutions and options than bringing him back to the Arsenal?
I don't think there's a better solution, but I don't think he's going to come back to Arsenal. I think he turned down £321,000 a week at Bayern Munich. He's 26 years old. He's at the peak of his powers. It's the move that we make next year if we finish 4th or 3rd. It's not the move that we make this year. I think he'd take too much of the funds that would go towards a striker, in my opinion. I just can't see a player of that level that's won the Champions League slumming it in the Europa League next season. And I just don't think we've got the finances to make it work this year. I love the rumor. I love the player. You know, I watched him at the Emirates playing for Arsenal. I watched him in a game where he gave the ball away and we conceded a goal. But he's so good, and I just worry that Arsenal fans are falling in love with this rumor a little bit too much, and it's going to be disappointment. But I love the player. I think he's a little bit unrealistic at this time.
If it does feel like a Vlahovic 2.0, where
no, I disagree. I think the fact of the matter is, Serge Gnabry's been at Arsenal. He knows what it feels like. He left the boy, and if there's any opportunity to get him back, he's coming back a man. Don't forget, he played with the current manager. He played with him in the side, so that has some credence and some legs on it. Listen, whether he'll come to Arsenal or not, that I don't know. But could there be mileage in it? 100%. Because didn't he, after Bayern Munich battered Tottenham, didn't he put North London is red and all that kind? So there is a feeling. Yeah, there is a feeling there. You know, there is a feeling there he has for the football club. Now, do we have the funds to go and get him, etc., etc.? Look, I don't know all the finances stuff. I don't know about how much will be available. I don't know. But is Gnabry a priority if we could get him? You're damn right he is, because he's a game changer. He is a game changer for sure. He's somebody who you can hang your hat on to score goals if the opportunities arise. And we haven't had that for a while since Aubameyang was at his pump. So I think if we can do it, do it.
Does it stifle Saka at all, Kev, if we get him?
No, I don't think it does. I don't think necessarily it does stifle Saka. No, I think what it does, it breeds competition for places. So, and any good side has to have competition for places. Now, Gnabry, Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Jesus, and whoever. Hey, there's 3 players who are going to play at the top end of the pitch. When you get your chance, you better take it, because there's hungry players waiting behind you just to come in. Same thing happens at City. You see Liverpool do that now. This is the law of the jungle now. So you can't be just having 3 players to play. No, you have to have competition. And if you've got real quality, it's important.
I think that's a really fundamental kind of growth that Arsenal Football Club have to have. I know that, and we saw a little bit of that, you know, as much as we love Emile Smith-Rowe and we love the Haaland product coming through, you know, the competitiveness between him and Martinelli that ensued, especially towards the end of the season, is a healthy thing, right? Unfortunately, Pepe didn't click into another gear where he was able to force Mikel Arteta to make decisions about, you know, Saka starting. Same thing with, you know, up front, it was Lacazette. After Aubameyang went, where's the competition? Finally, Arteta made a tough decision and brought in Eddie, which helped towards the end. I still have question marks about Eddie, and I think if we want to elevate our game and go to the next level, he is not going to be the long-term answer. So yes, Kev, you need, look, when you look at, for example, the Liverpool game, was it the League Cup game where we had played that heroic 0-0? We come to the Emirates and it's still
They
tight.
scored. They
They
scored.
scored and they
And
made
then they
two
made
subs.
two subs. I mean,
And who came on?
Salah and Firmino.
Firmino.
I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? You know, that's real power, real strength.
Yeah.
You know, where the defenders think, oh, they're making a change where they might take a step back. No, they go even more on the front foot. So,
yeah, I haven't seen any spammers, by the way, you guys. What are you talking? Is there some porn spammer in the chat? Oh yeah, I just saw it. Dating sucks and something else does too. So there we go. There's the block. Thanks for letting me know. All 360 of you, don't get Kev mad. You know what to do. Tell him, Kev, is smash it, hit it, nut it, butt it. You know, there's a few.
Put it in the corner. Smash it, slide it in the corner. Squaddies, come on.
Okay, so let's talk real quick about. He's not going anywhere, is he? This is just nonsense talk, isn't it?
He's going nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, when there's no way we're letting this guy go. And by the way, I forgot to put these pictures up of Serge, but I mean, this is when he was. Look who's playing in this team.
Look, he's a baby. Look, he's a baby there.
And this game against Tottenham, where he was lights out.
He scored as well, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. He did. And of course, as Pedro said, he's won it all at Bayern as well. Okay, so let's get stuck into. We've talked about the back line. We've talked about the midfield. We've talked about that forward line. Now it's a bit of freestyle. Pedro, who would, if you could shape the team the way you want, and is there a player that we haven't mentioned that you would love to see added to the squad based on the reality of perhaps the budget that we have to spend? What do you really think is going to happen this summer?
I think the striker position is the most consequential of the summer. If you have a 15 goal a season striker, that's the 7 or 8 extra points that we didn't get this season. And I think there's been a lot of weird kind of criticism about how creative the side is. We had the 4th most attempts at goal in the Premier League last season, 4th most shots on target, and we scored. I think we were the 6th highest scorers in the league. Like the problem is clear. We need a striker that can occupy defenders, can run lines, and be a threat in the box. And I like Gabriel Jesus, but you need a few graphs to prove why he's great as a striker. Like last season, up until the Newcastle game where he scored 4 goals, he was trailing Lacazette for goals, racking up the same amount of appearances. The season before, he got 13 goals as a striker off of 41 games. Like he doesn't ever outperform his XG. He's not a natural finisher. I would like a striker. Listen, I'd like a Kev Campbell in there. I want a tall striker that is strong, that's going to get on the end of balls, that's going to hold up play, that's going to bully defenders, and that's going to cause problems all game. And I don't understand how we can go from bidding 65 million for Vlahovic, registering interest in Alexander Isak at Sociedad, to signing a striker that's 5'10", and especially like Eddie Nketiah is going to be a top striker. I've got no doubt, but he's very much in the same mold as Jesus. And if we're chasing a game and you're taking off Jesus and you're putting on Eddie, and we're pinging, we signed all these specialist players that can find high balls from 60 yards. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't spend your 65 million on a striker that's 6'2", that can cause problems in the air. So I'm hoping that Tammy Abraham is on the list. I think he's an Arsenal fan. Arsenal wanted him last summer, but they couldn't shift on any of their strikers. He's gone to Italy, which is a notoriously tough league to score goals, and he's broken records. He's 24 years old. He's robust. He's strong. He can dribble. And he wrote this tweet when he was like 15 or 16, and it was something like, I'm too busy trying to be in FIFA to play FIFA. And I just thought that kind of captured the type of focus and character that he is. And I think he would score lots of goals in our system. And he's Premier League proven. So that's the player that I would like to see. And I think Gabriel Jesus, it just doesn't make sense to me. He's not. I don't think would be as effective. And I hope that it's just a paper rumor, and the real deal is going to be someone that's going to be a physical presence for us next season.
So I'm sliding over to Super Kev here because in January we both said on a few shows why Chelsea would never give him to us, but Tammy Abraham would solve a lot of our problems. And in fact, we've talked about how we've never really replaced Giroud and had, let alone like a plan A in certain situations, but a plan B. Giroud's gone off and won another championship title. Probably the most underappreciated, underrated player, not only at Arsenal, but maybe in Premier League history. There, I said it, everyone, I mean, the dude is just a serial winner and contributes wherever he goes. Kev, I know that you are still hot on Tammy.
Yeah, I am. I always have been. I'm hot on Tammy, and I'm hot on Jesus. Pedro mentions 41 games. Most of the time where he plays, he doesn't play as a striker. A lot of the time he plays wide. They mix and match him to what the team need. And that's Pep for you. He can afford to do that. You know, even when he was there with Aguero's going to be the main man down the middle. The fact of the matter is, Jesus is a player who can play multiple positions and he can score goals. And I could tell you this much. If we'd had Jesus up front instead of Lacazette, we would have won a lot more of those games. A lot more. Why? Because he's got the speed to be able to beat and run through defenses without the ball. So, again, I understand Pedro's what Pedro's talking about, but that's at Man City. At Arsenal, where we broke quickly and stuff like that with Martinelli and Saka. We needed someone who could run at the top. When Eddie came in, and Eddie's, as far as we're concerned, Eddie's not the answer. He can be a good striker, but maybe not at Arsenal. Look at the difference he made just by being busy and having a little bit more pace. So I just think it's a very difficult one. We need two strikers minimum. We need two strikers or three forwards.
You actually said we need 8 players, Kev, and I don't think that's off. And I quote you on every show I go on, and I think it's
and by the way, so that's minimum. We need 8. Minimum. We need 8 players. Because by the time you start talking about you need 2 fullbacks, I think we need 3 in midfield, and we need 2 strikers and a wide man. That's 8. Wrapped, done. We know we've got an extra keeper coming in. We know Saliba's coming back, so he's a centre half. So we got cover there.
So are we convinced, Pedro, that Saliba's coming back?
Yeah, I think so. The concern is that he's got to sign a deal, and Newcastle have just hired Dan Ashworth, who's come from Brighton, and Brighton's system is playing the ball out the back, and Saliba would look pretty good in the Newcastle system. And I think the other concern is that he'd want to be in that World Cup squad for the French team. But he'll get opportunities. He'll get opportunities at Arsenal. But yeah, like you plug Saliba in, that's 1 down. You bring Ainsley back, he can be a right back, backup. That's 2 down. You got the Matt Turner coming over from the MLS. That's
last
that's
night, didn't he? Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah, that's your backup goalkeeper sorted. Like there are internal options that can sort of bring down the requirement, but I think at least 2 forwards. Like we need to replace Pepe, and you need a striker, and then ideally two midfielders. I mean, if it was Neves and Tielemans, we'd be dancing in the street. I think those two are unbelievable players. I went to the Wolves game and watched Neves up close. I didn't realize that he's a very powerful guy. Like he's the biggest fraud of last summer was that he's just another jacker. He is not. So much more aggressive with his passing, so much more ambitious. He shoots. But I think if we got 4 top players, I think if you just got 2 forwards, a fullback, and a top midfielder, we're top 4 next season. I think. But we have to get these signings. I think it's about getting quality signings this summer. Like we sign 4 Nuno Tavareses, we're in trouble. But if we get 4 players of the quality of Odegaard, I honestly think I think the Spurs talk is over the top. I think that's going to come undone there, and I think I don't think we have to do as. I don't think the job to be done is as not as difficult. It is going to be difficult, but I think that it's easier for us to get our summer right than the Spurs.
Yeah, I feel Flex. I hear you because a lot of Arsenal players, like I said at the top of the show, poo-pooed Tomiyasu and Ramsdale. I don't think Ben White deserves the.
But what are we dreaming about?
Right, we're not dreaming at all. We're actually now in a position to offer European football. We signed Aubameyang and Partey and Tierney and Lacazette and Gabriel with Europa League carrot being dangled in front of them. It opens the door and a passage back to Champions League football. There's no reason why Arsenal shouldn't be having ambitions to win the Europa League next season. Hopefully, Mikel Arteta has also learned from his mistakes from the Europa League semi-final against Unai Emery, and also from trying to plug in Xhaka as a left back and leaving Lokonga as a lone man wolf in the midfield. Hopefully he will come back as well, smarter and brighter when it comes to managing the Arsenal Football Club. But also let's hope that he has a bit more experience and assets to be able to do that. So with that said, throw in your questions. We've got Super Kev for literally another 8 minutes here. We've got Pedro for 8 minutes or 5? Okay, we've got Kev for 5 and Pedro, I have you for maybe 10 because I want to do that fun segment with you at the end.
For sure.
We have 420 people in live chat. We have 150 likes.
It'll be 2 minutes if we don't get it up. Come on,
so literally
squaddies.
2 minutes. Okay, seriously.
Come on.
Let's get Simon's question. If Saliba comes back, do you think he'll be there 100 for the gaffer and squad? I feel like there is a beef there. Pedro, what's your take?
I think people infantilize football players, and they see the loan as a massive disrespect. Saliba has gone to Marseille, played 4,500 minutes, been in a European semi-final. He's got into the French national squad. Confidence will be through the roof. He's going to be coming back to Arsenal and he's going to be knocking on that first team door. If he'd stayed in our team last season, he would have played 15 games max. And I think there would have been a higher chance he would have exited. So I think he's going to come back a man. I'm excited to see him back. And he's an Arsenal fan. You get to play in London. We'll give you a pay rise and welcome him back. I don't think that the beef problem is going to be an issue. I think that Arteta knows that he's got to make this work, and there is not a better young centre-back in Europe for us to be picking up this summer. So I'm sure that he'll go to town on making him feel welcome.
Okay, Kev, here's one for you. What if Arteta doesn't get top 4 and no trophies?
If he doesn't, he doesn't. Listen, we've had one trophy. What is it? In one trophy in 3 seasons, right? That was an FA Cup or whatever. The fact of the matter is, if Mikel Arteta qualifies for the Champions League next season, if he did, great. But if he doesn't, questions are going to be asked. 100% questions are going to be asked. 100%. So
yeah, I
that's
don't
all.
think
That's part and parcel. That's part and parcel of being the Arsenal manager now.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that and keep your job after having so many windows and so much investment. Here's another quick one. Kev, you can answer this one before you go. From Gilfie. Don't you think that the signing of Lokonga and Tavares was a total waste of funds? How confident are you we won't make the same mistake?
No, I don't think it's a waste of funds because they're good young players. And the problem with fans are you don't give anybody time to develop. You just expect them to come in and hit the ground running where they've been playing in Europe. They haven't been playing in England. And we won't make the same mistake again because what we need is experienced players to be coming in, players who can handle it, could play for that badge, and who can make us better. I think that's the next signings we need to see. Players who majority we know and we could rely on.
Okay. By the way, infantilize has thrown everyone off. By the way, Pedro, they're not sure if it's a new buzzword, but Gunnar Russ and Newman are all over this, and you know, it's an actual word, isn't it?
Infanticize.
Infanticize.
Spend years and years wishing you could be young again, only to discover that actually.
No, they're riffing off your word where you said when I asked you about Saliba.
Oh, infantilize.
Infantilize.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Infantilize is to pretend that if you're a top level athlete, which I certainly was not, and you get into you're part of the 0.2% that makes it to the very elite, like Kev, you are tough. You are tough as nails. And people are like, oh, he must feel so wrong. It's like, this is a man. This is someone competing with alpha males at the top level. They don't care about stuff like this. These are elite. These are elite of the elite. Like this babying of players. It's just like, unless William Saliba comes out and says, I was really offended, let's assume that he's just happy to get on with it. And I think he did an interview. He said, the way that the way that it went down at Arsenal, I realized I was a nobody and I wanted to be a somebody. That's the attitude. That's top level athletes. That's why I'm not an athlete. And that's why Kev was, he knows about it. And I think we try and place emotion on players that doesn't really exist, that they don't really think about life. I don't think footballers think like that. And I think William Saliba will not feel wronged. I think he'll feel $1 million going back to Arsenal because he's got the right to say, maybe I'm one of the best defenders at Arsenal now.
Pedro, now when he walks in the building, everybody looks at him like that. Not like that. They look at him like that. Big French international now. He's coming in to shake things up. That's for sure.
Agree.
Well, he said some things that Arsenal fans have every right to question. I totally understand what you're saying and I completely agree with you. But he's also said a few things like, the Champions League thing and, of course, some of the interviews, but ultimately agree that in what you're saying. And just because working with Kev for so long in terms of how the athlete thinks. Super Kev, we've got to get you out. You've got to go.
Listen, Pedro, lovely speaking to you. Please come on again. I'd love to have this conversation with you and Sophie again. And the squaddies, obviously. Sophie, thanks, darling. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely day, everybody. And remember, squaddies, tell your loved ones you love them. Don't wait. Look after yourself, everybody, and take care. Cheers.
See you later.
See you, Super Kev.
At
we love
ease,
you.
squaddies.
That's awesome. And remember, Kev might be leaving, but he'll be checking on you guys, 430 of you in live chat. So please do hit that like button. Super Kev, we will be bringing Pedro. You promised to come back, right? Of course you will. Come back.
Absolutely.
This has been a phenomenal debut for you. Phenomenal debut.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I love the chemistry you've both got. It's such a fun show.
Well, we our squaddies help make that too. So the summer series, I promise. We've talked Arsenal, we've talked defenders, we've talked wing backs, we've talked midfielders, strikers, the manager, Spurs versus Arsenal. Who's more attractive in this summer window? I promised the guys that also there's going to be a bit of a getting to know you, right? So I hope you've come prepared with the list that I sent to you, right? So Pedro, the writer of Le Grove, the host of the Arsenal Opinion Show, let's get stuck into a little bit of pop culture fun, all right? It is the summer after all. Your favorite film?
Yeah, so when people ask you if I ask the favorite film, you try and think of something very fancy, very indie, and I do like that side of things. But the film that I would always go back to that is the greatest film, Jurassic Park, my absolute favorite. And it's one of those ones where people are like, ooh, like that's a bit lowbrow. I think it's a classic. It still works today. I went to Oahu to go on the tour of where they shot it, and it's just pure entertainment. And I reference it at work when I'm talking about certain things, like the Raptors pinging the gates is I use all sorts of terminology from it. So I think it's I've got a broad taste in films, but that's a classic for me.
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah, and also films you have in buckets, right? It's my go-to movie when I'm blue or I'm sick, and my when I need to, X, Y, and Z. Like I love Jerry Maguire. I think it's a classic. But When Harry Met Sally for me is one of the most perfect movies that has ever been made. It's just absolute genius. I was actually in a theater in London watching Jurassic Park, one of the first at a media screening, and it was groundbreaking. It was a really major deal at the time. And of course, they've reinvented the wheel and stuff like that. Let's get your favorite TV show.
So I think the TV. I had to think about what affected me after and what made me want to read books about it. And it's a bit of a standard one, but I think Sopranos has stood the test of time. I think the way that it addressed toxic masculinity in the late 90s in such a bold way still feels fresh and modern to this day. I think the writing was exceptional the whole way through, and it's the only TV series that I've ever watched and I missed after it. So it's Sopranos for me.
Mine is Mad Men.
Amazing.
Such an amazing television show, and also a show that ingrains itself on popular culture and changes style and infuses fashion and all sorts of transitions in kind of film content and TV content and entertainment too. Really inspired this new wave of period piece television shows, and I just think that it's brilliant. Oh my God, Cairo! I watched Grease last night. I was thinking, I just want to switch off. And Tony put Grease on, and it is the greatest musical that has ever been made. What an absolute insane film that was, and a bit naughty. If you listen to the lyrics of some of the songs for 1978 at the time, just absolute classic. It's funny that you brought that up. Another great one. See, this is what happens. We can go on for another hour now, Pedro, but we won't. Favorite actors, male, female, both.
Bob Odenkirk is my favorite actor. So I wanted to say
swinging from the left today. I love it.
Yeah, I wanted to say Better Call Saul was my favorite show because I love it, and I think that he's just such an incredible character and just a weird actor. You're like, he's actually amazing. He's an incredible. He brings that show to life and everything that he does. He's such a quirky character, and I love him. And then female would be Olivia Colman, just a classic, like what a spectacular career. Kind of like weirdly under the radar considering how many good things that she does. But just a total pro and a joy.
Yeah, she's really just fantastic. Did you see the shorts limited series she did with David Thewlis for HBO? Gosh, it's based on a real story. The murder one,
the gardener,
the guard, yeah, something I can't remember the name of it.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's on the list.
It's genius. They're both brilliant in it. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, your favorite band?
There's the Foals, my favorite band. They're like one of those bands that when you're young you pick up on, like sort of pre-first album and then sort of follow them through. And I think that they're one of the best sort of rock bands in the UK, and I love their work. I'm a big fan of that sort of 2000s, 2010s sort of indie scene that completely disappeared at some point and got replaced by a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really interest me. But like the Foals were kind of my favorite out the back of it, like proper musicians.
Very, very nice. Your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Demian, Arriaga, Jonas Brothers. My man, My man, Demian. Just what he invited me to the gig, and he was like, you should bring earplugs. And I was like, I've been to festivals and bands and gigs all over the world. I don't need to bring earplugs. And then I got there, and my word, the screams blew my ears out. And and it's just fun watching your friend play for an amazing. I want to get to see him play with Miley Cyrus, because that looks outrageous
that
as well.
Lollapalooza event was insane. Getting his pictures and stuff like that. I was in at Wembley Stadium, July 15. I was 15 years old, and I saw Michael Jackson, and I was actually standing. I thought I was going to die, so my cousin put me on his shoulders. Princess Diana was in the arena too, stadium. It was unbelievable.
You saw Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it was the Bad Tour, and it was insane. Forget about all the other stuff. But music, it was at his peak. It was the greatest tour ever. And he started when he was singing Dirty Diana, he was singing it to Princess Diana. And I was like, am I living in a dream here? It was insane. It was just the craziest concert I've ever been to. I also love the Eagles as well. So, all right, your favorite city?
New York. I mean, I'm from London. You can't really say where you're from, but New York, I love it. It's
okay.
It's dirty.
I love New York too. I know,
dirty,
it's real,
it's
isn't
gritty.
it?
Yeah, it's full of crazy people with bundles of talent. There's always something going on. It never sleeps. All of those cliches are true, but it's my favorite grubby city in the world.
I love it. Okay, your favorite drink?
Old fashioned.
Ooh, nice. Your favorite swag?
Wasn't really sure what you meant by favorite swag.
So, like, do you have, when you're getting your trainers, are you an Adidas guy? Are you a Nike guy? Are you a Elise? Were you a Lacoste guy ever? Or are you just a guy that just buys stuff that it meets the eye?
I like. I don't really wear sneakers. I like British, like fancy British shoes. So I will buy
like
that's my
shoes,
treat
like
myself.
that type of churches.
Yeah, like
type of
kind of
level?
like brogues, the big or like big chunky ones. I buy Crockett and Jones shoes, and that's my version of swag, because I can't. I don't really wear sneakers very well.
Okay, so a game, and we'll get you out on these next two. Thanks so much for having fun. And Newman, I'm not going to ask that question. You're such an idiot sometimes. I love it. Your game that you never went to, no matter whether it's domestic or international, any era, any time, that you wish you could transport yourself to and be in the crowd?
I think it's a real basic, but Arsenal versus Liverpool, 1989. I was in Spain. I mean, I was very young, but I remember being in Spain and my dad listening to it like through a phone, like someone had a radio up to it. And I know people that were there, and it still feels iconic, even though I was very young when it went on. But like that's the game. Like, what a way to win it all. So yeah, if I could be at any game in a crowd, it would have been that one.
Okay, I did have this one too, but I think you may have answered it earlier in the show. But I said, if you owned Arsenal, who would be your manager, captain, and what would your starting 11 look like in a quick nutshell?
I campaigned for Arteta the first time round, so I have to suck it up and say this is the manager that I want at the club. So the manager stays the same. Captain, I think the captain would be Martin Ødegaard, and I think like our starting 11 is the one that we've got at the moment. But I would add Tammy Abrahams into the mix. I would like a Tielemans, and then I think it would be, the rest of the players would pick themselves. But I'm happy with where we are as a club. I think it's exciting, and sometimes the journey is the most exciting part about it. Liverpool is sustaining, Arsenal on the journey. So I like being on a journey with a young group of players that you feel like might be able to get to the top. So I'm really happy with where we are at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. No one wants to go. No England fan wants to go back to that game. By the way,
No.
Tyrannosaurus, like ever, ever, ever.
What game would you go back to before you?
I said the 1979 FA Cup, Alan Sunderland, because it was such a topsy-turvy game, and Man United thought that they were going to win that in the end, and then getting to the 3-2 and just that whole moment. And to be honest with you, as an opposing fan, if I could be at a game, because Anfield 89, okay, yeah, of course, winning the league at White Hart Lane was great. But the 99 Champions League game between Man United and Bayern Munich, to be in that stadium for that insanity, those 2 goals in added time, my goodness, that would have been, completely insane. Chief Like Officer Tammy, you've done a great job. 195 likes. If you didn't hit the like button on the way in, hit it on the way out. Don't forget to leave your wristband at the door so you can get in next time. Pedro, you have been absolutely brilliant. I've loved having you on, loved our conversation. You've already promised to come back, and we're going to make that happen when the season starts next season. And we'd love to have you on a lot more. We broke your cherry, but I think it worked
fantastic.
out really well.
I had a great time. I love the show. Thank you for having me on. We've got to have you on the Arsenal opinion as well and get the cross-pollination going.
Totally. Absolutely. Kevin and I would love to do that. To you, squaddies, we hope you enjoyed the show. Show some love. Let them know where they can find you, all your work, Pedro.
You can find you can find the websites, lagrove.co.uk. We try and write something every day. And we have a podcast called The Arsenal Opinion. So you can type that into YouTube, or you can get it in all of your podcast apps if you want to listen to it a bit more.
Brilliant. Awesome stuff, squaddies. Don't forget to share with everyone. You guys take care. I will be back live on Monday with another very special guest. So look out on the Twitter page and the YouTube community page as well. Super Kev will be back at some point next week. In the meantime, take care. We love you lots, like vodka shots. Be safe. And if you ever need to reach out for any reason, if it's not even football related, there's been a couple of serious conversations in chat tonight. Don't think that I don't notice them. I do. Please email me, thehighburysquad@gmail.com. Thehighburysquad@gmail.com. You know how much we love our community and our people, and we are always here to support and help however we can. Until then, we love you. Thanks, Pedro, again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
At ease, everyone.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.